So I think it's clear to everyone that Call of Duty, specifically Warzone, has fallen off a cliff. And I think there's been this downhill trend since we've lost Verdansk. And the sentiment is we need Verdansk back to save Warzone. But I don't think that will happen. And I found someone else who made another video along the same lines. His name is Dreamstrike. And the video is called Verdansk Won't Save Warzone Unless. I don't know what that unless means, but I guess that's what we're here to find out. So let's actually find what this video is about.
Actually save Warzone. Well, we all know they need to fix the anti-cheat and they need better servers.
Yep.
But in this video, I want to talk about 10 underrated gameplay mechanics
I like
that a
where
lot
we're
of
going
people
here.
aren't talking about that I think they need to bring back in Verdansk to make Warzone fun again. Now, this first one might seem
I'm
like
assuming that these are all going to be things that were in the game and aren't anymore.
a small thing, but I think it made a big difference in the gameplay, and it's shooting people out of the sky. Now, love it or hate it, but this to me was one of those core features that I remember from Warzone 1. Anytime that you dropped into Verdansk and that you had to use your parachute.
I kind of agree with this. It made it fun. Like fun is the only word I can have for that. And I kind of understand why they don't in Resurgence and things like that, but I kind of agree with this one.
Shoot for an extended period
Even
of time.
though I hated
you just
it sometimes.
knew someone was going to shoot you in the back. So obviously it was fun to try to troll people and try to get kills this way.
Good job, Internet.
But one of the undercover things that I think made this mechanic so great was it could completely disrupt the initial start of the game for a team. I mean, how many times did you plan with the boys to drop at a certain POI only for one of your...
No. What happened? What this is, I don't know what he's going to say, but what happened is someone would shoot at one of your boys and then everyone on your team would turn on that guy. And it created a whole different start to the game.
Members to just get fried in the air, and now you had to contest an enemy team with a man down. Like I said, love it or hate it, I think it brought a lot of variety to the game because it completely changed the early part of the match, and it could make things really interesting. Okay, number 2, and this is the big one, usable vehicles. Now, some of my fondest memories from Verdansk are racing around the map in an SUV, looking for teams to fight, or spending so many different... This is one
I've heard a lot about. Vehicles used to be really good in Warzone, and they nerfed them because they were too good. And I think there needs to be balance.
Matches trying to hot drop and grab the helicopter as fast as I could to try to chop people out of the air. And why I think the vehicles were so great in Verdansk is they had a lot of maneuverability and they were very fast, so they were actually useful in gunfights. But the big thing is they were also vulnerable. There was a big risk reward to using vehicles in Warzone 1. On one hand, you could get around the map very quickly and you could hunt for kills.
You could also go
but on
boom.
the other hand, you could get immediately destroyed by someone hiding with a C4. And I think this trade-off made Verdansk a lot of fun. I do think in a battle royale with a big map, you do need ways to get around the map quickly. And I think vehicles are the perfect solution for that because they are vulnerable and it is a little bit of a risk getting into them. Whereas right now we have redeploy balloons, which have pretty much taken the place for vehicles.
True.
And the problem with redeploy balloons is you can pretty much get from point A to point B instantly. So you can make a lot of
thing, right? Like the easy answer is, oh, redeploy balloons make the game better because it speeds it up. But it also just changes the game inherently, right? Like Verdansk would play very different if everyone is just ripping redeploy balloons all the time.
Bad decisions or bad rotations and still bail yourself out if you have a redeploy balloon. And this can be frustrating for players who play more tactically and go for positioning because redeploy balloons eliminate a lot of strategy in the game. I think having usable vehicles in Verdansk really balanced out the gameplay because you could get from point A to point B relatively quickly, but players who were holding power positions still had a chance to kill you. And this brings me to point number 3, power positions. Now, this might be an unpopular opinion.
This might be one I don't agree with.
But I think power positions made Verdansk a lot of fun. Yes, it did create a lot of camping, but it also created a lot of narrative and storyline. I mean, who didn't hate that team that camped all game in the airport tower? Or the team that camped in the buildings downtown or at stadium? I can remember so many games where some enemy killed me in one of those positions, and after the gulag, I made it my life's mission to go and take them out. In this clip right here, I got sniped from a guy on stadium, and I literally just full sent him with the helicopter afterwards, and it felt really good. These power positions created so many fun moments and storylines because there was nothing better than eliminating that team that camped all game and finally had to leave safety once the zone pulled away from them. But on the flip side,
It's a balance. Like with anything like this, it's a balance.
Side, it also gave people a way to play a much slower game. I can remember having many gaming sessions where I just wanted to chill with the boys and have a few drinks and just sit in one spot and have a good time. You could catch up on life and just chill out and play a much slower game. And that's what I think made Verdansk great. There were so many viable play styles. And
see, I love it when people make points that I'm like, you might be right. Because I was just going to straight up say, you know what? It just slows down the game and that's a bad thing. But maybe not trying to go crazy and get 30 kills every single game. Like my favorite memories from Verdansk were sitting on roofs and talking about whether pineapples deserve to be on pizza or not. Not like the game I got like 40 kills. Okay, let's be honest, I never got 40 kills, but like 27 kills. I don't remember. Like that doesn't matter.
And you could really play as slow or as fast as you wanted to. So my hope with Verdansk is that they don't put zip lines everywhere and they don't have redeploy balloons, and they actually keep some of these old power positions that made the map a lot of fun. Okay, number 4.
Guns.
They have to bring back the original gulag showers.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what it is specifically about this gulag, but to me, they got it right the first time, and every single gulag since has just not been nearly as good. I'm not sure if it's just the nostalgia speaking or what, but it really did feel like these gulag showers were very fair. The map was symmetric, and the lighting was good.
It is true. The gulag is something that they have tried to mess with over and over and over again, and it seems like every time they do, it's just made worse. Except for when they made it 2v2. And then that was the worst. It was never worse than that. So I guess it improved from that, but it was never better than the original.
And it just felt like it was a true 1v1 test for skill. Now that being said, there were some corny things like with the tactical grenades and some of the weapon choices I don't know that I care for that much. Personally, I'd like to see the 1v1 gulag with just the pistol come back. I think that that was a great representation of skill level, and I think that the better player typically won that. But either way, I don't think that you can have Verdansk without the gulag showers, so hopefully they bring that back as well. And this actually leads me to my 5th gameplay mechanic. You should only be able to get back into the game from the gulag or from a buyback. Now, Verdansk was my first battle royale.
I like this take as well.
Game, and one of the things that I miss was the stakes of each game and how much my life mattered. There weren't a million opportunities for my team to get me back into the game, and when I made a tactical mistake or made any mistake in general, I was punished.
Like still, buybacks are enough. Like you can get back many times from buybacks, but with all the ways that there are to get back now, it just seems like your life doesn't matter. And all Warzone is just going for high kill games. He's right. I agree.
This definitely made the game slower and more tactical, but I think that gave Verdansk an identity, and it made it feel completely different to Resurgence. Now, one of the things that I know is tricky about this is no one wants to just sit around for 10 or 15 minutes at a time while their team tries to get them back. So one thing that I think would be really cool if they could do it would be to give all the spectators in the game the option to play in a free-for-all or a team deathmatch where you have your loadout guns and you can just practice your mechanics or work on leveling up your guns. And I think that that would go a long way to making the game more enjoyable when you die, but then still keep the high stakes part of Battle Royale. Okay, and the 6th gameplay mechanic that they should bring back is I think they should make Overkill a perk again and put it in the same category as Ghosts, and then make Ghosts work how it used to work, which was it was active at all times. And I think that this was a super underrated reason why Verdansk played so well, because it forced players to really try to consider how they wanted to play the game. If they wanted to play more tactically, they could pick.
Okay, I'm fine with them making Ghost compete with Overkill in a perk slot, but Ghost, if you don't know, it used to work where you didn't, like it would just work at all times. And then that in combination with everything else that he's talking about, I think goes too much to slowing things down. So I don't agree with that
and then
one.
Be invisible on the radar, but they only got their primary weapon and then a pistol as their secondary. And on the flip side, if you wanted to play more aggressively, especially early in the game, you wanted to pick up Overkill so you had both your SMG and your AR. So there was once again a nice trade-off between playstyles, and it made both playstyles have a lot of pros and cons. I know some people will say that making Ghosts go back to how it was would give campers way too much of an edge, but once again, I think this is another thing that just makes more playstyles viable in the game, and at the end of the day, that's what you want.
So far on this list, I have 2 that he hasn't named yet that I think are incredibly important.
You want a lot of different ways for people to win to be viable because more people are going to play the game. And then the 7th mechanic that they should bring back is they should make jump shots useful again and then also bring back bunny hopping.
Seems like a lot of people want this.
You might be saying, well, wait, in the last gameplay mechanic, you were encouraging camping and now you want to have bunny hopping and jumping. But once again, I just want to have balance in the game. And I just think that Warzone 1 struck like lightning in a bottle where it just had so much balance between the sweaty players and the casual players, where the casual players still stood a chance if they had ghosts and they were camping, but then the sweaty players, they could also still outplay that by bunny hopping around corners, by jump shotting through doorways, and it just all comes back to, I think there just needs to be balance in the game between different play styles and just allowing people to play how they want, and also having the game feel good. Right now, it sometimes feels like your character is like stuck in the mud and the gameplay just doesn't feel fluid and it doesn't feel good. And I think adding back in the ability to jump shot and bunny hop would fix a lot of that feeling. Okay, this next one is a tough one, and I'm not sure how exactly they can do it, but I think it's important. And what it is I think that Verdansk is going to need to have a much smaller gun pool.
This was one of my
things. All the
things.
attachments need to be unlocked.
This is so not necessarily all of the attachments being unlocked, but I completely agree. Less is more when it comes to weapons.
If you think about it, when Verdansk first came out, all we had was the MW19 guns and everyone loved the game. We don't need hundreds of guns for people to have fun.
And it makes, when they actually add weapons in, it makes it so that they matter. That they actually change up the game, because the game's not just filled with a million guns.
Verdansk is going to bring back a lot of casual players who are going to want to experience the nostalgia again of playing Verdansk. And if you have all these players come back in the game and they don't have any of the guns unlocked or any of the attachments unlocked, they're just going to get slammed and pretty much immediately stop playing the game, which is what we don't want. So I'm not sure exactly how it should be done, but they need to figure out a way to vault some of these guns or have specific modes where the number of guns you can select is just way less. Because right now, with the number of guns and the number of attachments that are available, it's just...
They need to do also like just storytelling in this map. That's another one of my things, like just the SOS on the roof, little things like that. Anyway, what was I gonna say about this? So they need to do what other live service games have done, where you have two modes. You have your standard mode and you have like your wild mode, for example. Standard mode, it's a certain subset of weapons. Wild mode, it's all of the weapons that have been there at all times.
So overwhelming for new players, and I think that that's just going to push a lot of people away from the game because it's just way too complicated to set up your classes. And also, if you don't have everything unlocked, it's just going to feel very unfair if you're trying to get back into the game. And mechanic number 9 is bring back one-shot RPGs. Now, it pains me to even say that because as a sweaty player, it was so annoying to get killed by guys camping in corners with RPGs and just getting one-shotted. But if you look back at so many of the classic clips that we all love from Verdansk, one-shot RPGs were a core part of that game. And I think that now that we have ranked modes and different modes that are more competitive, you can take some of these, I guess, more cheesy mechanics out of those modes and keep those modes more competitive, but then bring the fun back to the actual public matches and the matches that the casual players are going to play. I also think when you have some of these lower skill options for players to get kills, you can loosen up the skill-based matchmaking in the game and provide more variety to players, because now the lower skill players have options to still get kills, and if they want to, they can just sit in buildings all day long.
Okay, the problem with this is, and what he is not saying here, this is the main problem, is when you have something like this, it's not just going to be the low skilled players that use these techniques. It's going to be the high skilled players that use these techniques, which means it's not just going to be the crap players using RPGs, it's going to be all of them. That's the problem with one-shot kill rockets, and he's not mentioning that.
And still get kills and have a good time. I think that what we're all chasing is that feeling that we had of playing Verdansk during COVID, when it was locked down and no one had anything to do but play video games all day with your friends. And the reality is, when the game does come back, it's not going to feel the exact same. I do think long-term they need to fix their anti-cheat, get better servers, and consider making Warzone a standalone game so they can build an identity for Warzone that doesn't change every year with every multiplayer release. But at least in the short term, I do think that Verdansk is going to provide a big boost to the franchise, because after watching back some of these gameplays, man, there's just nothing like winning on Verdansk. And a big part of that has to do with gameplay mechanic number 10, which I'll tell you here in a second, but I just want you to experience it here for a minute.
So to me, it's the idea of like your life actually mattering. Like that really is the biggest thing to me. And it needs to feel like it's difficult to win, and your life matters. The decisions you make in game matter. Smart plays matter. And I think that's probably where he's going with this. So you can see two guys out there. Well, you got lucky with the zone. I'm trying to like, guess what the point he's getting at here is.
Dead. No police.
Broken. Oh, dead silence. Please tell me you're not going to say dead silence is going to be the thing. I used to use heartbeat sensors all the time. Is it the last guy? It is.
GG's. Alright.
Yeah, gameplay mechanic number 10 is to please bring back some of the old sounds. Whether it's the hit markers or the sound of winning, just if we have some option to bring back some of those iconic sounds, it would just make the experience that much better. And if you want to see the #1 way to improve your aim in Warzone, you should check out this video right here.
All right, so I think he's missing two things. I think he's missing two pretty big things. Number one is it needs, he kind of mentioned it, where the game needs its own identity. It needs its own story. Those little details that I pointed out there, like that one roof having SOS on the top of it, the different areas actually meaning something because there is story related to them. I truly believe that Verdansk was probably supposed to come back with Modern Warfare 3 because the way that Verdansk tied in with that story actually made sense, whereas going to Urzikstan really didn't. And like, there's other things, and I have videos that I'm working on that have to do with that, but it just doesn't make any sense, right? And then now we have Black Ops 6, whose story is in Avalon, and now we're getting Verdansk. It needs to be its own thing, and I hope they implement its own story when it comes, but I have a feeling that they won't. And the final thing is weapons. If we look back at Verdansk, yeah, the map is half the story, but so are the weapons. Like that MP5 was unbelievable. That AMAX was unbelievable. The Grau with that specific attachment that made the iron sights different, unbelievable. And those are like a part of the game. Remember when everyone was rocking thermal scopes on their sniper rifles? It's because there wasn't this overwhelming bloat of ridiculous amounts of weapons in the game that those things could actually have their time to breathe and stand out. And I think it's a mix of all of that. The story of the map, the story of the weapons, the story of the gameplay where your life actually mattered. It's all telling stories every time you play the game. It's just how it's done. And now it's just such a blur of people going for 40 kill games over and over again that your life doesn't matter and no one really cares unless you're dropping huge kill numbers. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. It was a great video. Great video. This is actually someone I've never seen before. His name is Dreamstrike. Go check him out.